remember. There was a game that was like set in Age of Sigmar, and it was kind of like Kill Team, and it was like war something war yell war scream.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I have no memory of this place. Warcry. That's the one. Warcry. The hell happened to Warcry?
Welcome to a bottom of the barrel video.
This is what happens when there's nothing to talk about, guys. we go to the dregs.
4 Tariff videos, so
yeah.
So now we're talking about Warcry.
The news is kind of all in that realm right now.
And no, do you recall when that game came out?
Yeah, it was in 2019. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, because that'll be 6 years ago. And version 2 was 3 years after that.
No, I do, yeah. So when the game came out, I was like, this is cool. I thought the setting was pretty cool. And I remember unboxing the game and playing, like just getting the models built and playing and figuring the game out inside of 30 minutes. And I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And the little boards and the terrain.
Yep.
And then I played a campaign of it, and I was like, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh. So it turned into a vehicle for cool crews. And then they like AOS, for match play reasons, they like made good war scrolls for the teams. So they saw play and life in that world, which was nice.
Yeah, they had like the compendium come out, and you could take like basically all the basic units in your army could like be used in Warcry essentially.
Yeah. So, and then I guess second it came out, and I honestly didn't have personal interest in playing the game.
And they kind of moved away. Second edition is when they kind of moved away from the whole chaos only thing,
right?
In terms of their like releases,
which is probably smart.
Yeah.
So you can release more little teams of fun things, and there was a vehicle to deliver more of kind of like what Kill Team does. It's what it's supposed to do. So you got like Cities of Sigmar Wild Hunter guys, and new Sylvaneth models, and Ogre Gorgers. The problem is the game is not as deep as Kill Team.
No,
not even in the slightest.
Yeah.
My dream was that it would have the Mordheim-esque thing to it, with some sort of like. It's a little puzzling to me that we have. In the books, in army books, you have Path to Glory, which I know people like, because it's got like some depth, and that you have that and Warcry exists in the same world. It's bizarre to me. And then you have Underworlds as well, which is, I know, a different game, but you still have like little warbands. Like we have effectively 3 ways to play warbands in a game that is, a third as popular as 40K or whatever. It's very odd
that's
to me.
Probably a really good thing to start with, like discussion-wise, is can this game even exist? Like, and I don't mean like can they make it. I mean like can they sell it, right? Like can enough people want it? And my initial reaction is like, just based on the people making those purchases of the Warcry models to begin with, very few people were buying Warcry models. Very few people were buying Warcry models to play Warcry. I'd say about half the sales I was making on Warcry kits were because the models are just a phenomenal,
of course,
killer models.
Yes.
And the other half was because they're actually like usually pretty good units in Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And GW almost like, in order to make the game sell, pivoted to making cool. Almost like what Kill Team does, like it's like, we're going to make Striking Scorpions and like release them as a Kill Team. Right. It's like, well, people are going to buy them for their other armies.
Right.
We're going to release Chameleon Skinks and people are going to buy them to play Seraphon. It's like, but like, what about Warcry? Right. And to your point, is like really, really relevant. If Age of Sigmar is like 20% of the 40K sales in terms of like, I don't remember what the ratio is exactly. It's like, and Kill Team just kind of took off. How can you have all these little Age of Sigmar games like actually generating enough revenue to be worthwhile?
It's that segment of fantasy particularly the Age of Sigmar pie is the actually I just thought of it as you're talking, is like, if we're talking about like small fast furious games to entice people into the Age of Sigmar world, you also have to include Spearhead.
Yep. Yeah.
We have. We have 4 ways to play Sigmar that's small and simple. It's like way too saturated in that, and it actually now it's like too many. Like why? People don't even. They're like, which one are my friends playing? I don't know.
And Spearhead blows all those away. Like,
Spearhead is by far the best one, right? Like because it's like a regular game. It also
leads to the bigger game, right?
Yeah,
so it's probably just a better idea.
Yeah, like no, I definitely think they've lost their minds a little bit in that realm. I think they should probably call one of these. Path to Glory is free, so you can keep that in the books. That's just like that doesn't require to anything there. Of the and then Spearhead, I think that's not going.
That's
away.
A mainstay now, yeah. That's
so I think either the Underworlds or the Warcry, they need to either meld somehow, which actually could be kind of cool if you could meld a game or get rid of one or whatever. I don't know.
I feel like they kind of made their choice already. Because like I was surprised to see them relaunch Underworlds. Like, so have they not just made? This is the
part of GW that sometimes kills me. Is I know everything has to be like staggered in advance and
like super ahead of time.
And
right?
like it's like a lot of big companies that have lots of releases. You just like slot them in like every queue. We do this, and it's like on a cycle. This is when the Switch 2 comes out, when the Switch 3 comes out, when the PS6 comes, it's like very set and like clockwork. And I do think though that you have to sometimes stop it. And I know they're also like they're also in a time where they don't really like killing things because the negative publicity is not great. It's very loud. I guarantee you'll have a whole pile of like, there's still videos made today about Sacrosanct or whatever being, or someone's Lord of the Rings, which guy, Easterlings, Forge-World Easterlings got killed or something.
Did they really?
I saw that I didn't watch the video, but it looked like that's what they were talking about. I could be wrong, but anyway, the point is maybe they're trying not to do that so much, and they've already spent the money, so to speak, because there's just artists and developers already working on these things. But I think Age of Sigmar as a setting is so rich and awesome that they really should think of something else.
You know what really tells me that Warcry might be in trouble, or is that the new Spearheads they showed off for the summer have Warcry, where all of them have Warcry warbands.
Oh, reboxing them in, yeah.
So clearly something's going to change. Like something is going to happen here.
To recycle.
There's going to be a big like. So let's move our conversation to that. So like let's talk about what might happen. Like what obviously option one is like they just scrap it, right? Mm-hmm. They're just like, okay, we're not going to continue with Warcry. Mm-hmm. We're going to move all of those cool. They already discontinued all the Chaos ones. They're already gone.
Yep.
They took them off the website like last year. They're no longer in production. So they've dealt with that already. All of the faction units, it's a really easy fix. They're all playable in Age of Sigmar, so you just move them into regular box sets. Now they're Age of Sigmar models. Easy fix. So I feel like the damage that they would do by doing option one is relatively small.
Yep.
Because the player base was tiny to begin with, and all the models are usable and other things. So it's kind of like it's probably a pretty low risk decision. Mm-hmm. The more fun thing to talk about, though, is what if they, what could you possibly imagine them doing to try a third time here?
Yeah, you make a thematic warband grid-based game that's set in like cities of Sigmar City or whatever. So you make
more time.
You make more time. But it's like a tactics game.
Okay.
And you have like Necromonday of progression and stuff, and you hire your dudes, and I think
so. You really chunk it up, is what you're saying. Like you try to add some meat on the bones, and actually give them. I think the purpose of these
products, like one of the purposes or one of the side effects of the Warcry and Underworlds is like those games are able to add a lot of fluff and lore to the game, because you can get down on a person on like you have like Kalis and Toll or whatever. You're more because it's just a couple of interesting characters and their band of friends and then so you're like intrigued to read the novel and learn about their, because they're not the faceless characters in a whole army, so so that's important. I think that's why, we saw it with like products like Curse City were wildly popular, and even their previous Warhammer Quest type of whatever they were. What was the first one?
Why can't we just fight in the city? Everyone wants to fight in the city.
Everyone wants to fight in the city. So I guess my point is, after a decade, I feel like the Age of Sigmar world has been flushed out a bunch. So yeah, why don't you zero in on another area and really push that? And they're creative. They'll write up fun ways like Mordheim did to have all these different factions and people arrive. I'm sure there's some interesting city where everything meets. I don't see why. I think that would be all right. They can make fun games, and I think their skirmish games are the best games, but they do have to put a little bit of effort in. I think Warcry's biggest downside was they went, in my opinion, they went way too simple. They just made it so. They weren't so. I was you already have this is, and when the game came out, it would have AOS would have been 4 years old, so it was only in second ed, I think. Still, I think it was tail end of second ed. It was pushing through
2019. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
The game was already AOS as a whole was already a pretty easy game to learn to play. So I don't really know why we had to go even simpler.
One die roll.
It was
just one.
Yes, roll.
Just one die roll.
Yeah. So that always got me. It was what? Funny enough, Kill Team has only gotten more complicated.
And that's made it more popular.
And it's made it more popular somehow, which I was kind of blew me away or whatever.
I think I'm starting to come around the idea. I get this isn't gonna catch everybody what I'm about to say, because I think there are people that appreciate. I know I've met a few people that were I like how simple Warcry is. So okay, cool, all power to you, right? I think GW is addressing that a little bit better with creating staged rules. So having AOS play you can play this type of AOS Spearhead where it's thinned down.
Yeah.
And then you can keep chunking it up and making it more complicated. But I think one thing I've kind of come to understand about miniature games is people aren't doing it because it's easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's a very oversimplistic thing to say, but I think if you're in your headspace getting into a miniature game where you have to already build and paint and put labor and sweat equity into, you're probably open to learning something that's harder than Settlers of Catan. You know, you're probably willing to invest 30 minutes into reading a rule book instead of 10. You know what I mean? I genuinely think adding a bit more chunk is okay.
No, there's chunky. There's an extreme chunk, but I think Warhammer games have historically fit in a nice middle zone. That is why they are popular and stick around. People like the rewarding feeling of solving the puzzle. And let's be honest, to really I don't know, this is going to be a bit crass or whatever, but the these games are designed for a 14-year-old to effectively read and figure out, and I think most of people's exhaustion is more with pace of rule change than actually.
I think I would agree there. Yeah. It's not that the games are hard; it's that they change so much.
So
yeah. And so for some of the games there can be a lot of information to digest.
Sure,
it's like
but that entices you to play more.
It's supposed to. It's supposed to. Yeah.
Sure. Sometimes things are a little galaxy. That's why they have a jillion factions and styles of play. There's something for everyone. But I don't know about you, but historically the games that have kept us going long term are ones that have a little bit more to them. If you can solve this is anything is literally any whatever you're doing, a video game, a sport, attack, you if it's too easy, you lose interest. You just okay. So, and if there's no meat, there's no extra thing to come back and play for. I think that's a problem. So, I think they could. I think they could jazz it up, and we're not even. It's so simple that I think if you just because it's on a difficulty rating, it's only at 10%. You could crank it up to 30 or 40, and it still would be a relatively easy to pick up game with some fun mechanics or whatever. It doesn't have to be so.
No. I think that's the point. Is we're not asking for Warcry to be Kill Team or whatever. We're just asking for it to have a compelling sort of reason to come back to it over and over again. You know,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm.
Yeah.
And I think a two-tiered approach, like you mentioned, like making the rules a bit more interesting and more maybe a bit more complexity there. I think the way you do that, although it might make some people sad, is by getting rid of the compendium. I think that was a good thing for Kill Team. You can tighten the game up by having less choices.
No,
It's unfortunate.
The set teams have proven to be very successful, actually.
Yeah, because, I think it's good.
A small minority wants to pick every guy and but to get your game going and people playing it, and from a balance perspective, you do have to have some set teams. But I think, again, if you want to, like, for me personally, I'd like a blend. I'd still want to be able to have, like,
some choices,
track some people getting hurt along the way.
So, like, a bit more like Necromunda.
I want a bit of both. Yeah. I think you could have, like, some set teams, some starter teams. Like, this is what you have to start with, and then you can kind of, your journey can diverge as you play through the campaign. But
I think people are crazy. I think you're absolutely right. I think you hit the nail on the head there, and I was going to get to that with my second one, which is like storytelling. Like, I think the fantasy side of Games Workshop's product offerings are really hurting for something like that. And I get Blood Bowl does that a little bit. That's fine. It's a sports game. It's not for people that like AOS. It's not necessarily going to appeal to them. But I think they're really craving something that has like a little bit more storytelling, a little bit more like kind of that like injury experience, finding cool weapons sort of thing. And maybe you can do a bit more like a Kill Team meets Necromunda, but in the AOS setting.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. Obviously, 40K. People all have to be like, oh, AOS, the lore and the setting sucks or whatever. And I'm like, they take for granted that 40K got to build its
40 years
world for 40 years, and also like a significant chunk of it was built before most players were born. So they just read it like it's this like mythical thing, and they don't realize that like at some point that was new as well or whatever.
It took a lot of time to get there.
I think that's true, and it's. AOS is also like I will say this is a kind of a little side tangent on AOS in general, and I'm hoping that maybe the next decade, I'm sure there will be another decade of it. Sorry, old world people. That this will be the opportunity where they change less things and let some things stay around, because I feel like in the first 10 years there's been so much flux that you are like. Not incentivized to fall in love with a piece of it because it's going to change. So there's some things like I like that in the AOS world, the characters like Marathi are just like a known quantity. You're like, oh yeah, this is what this model does. This is their story, and it's stayed the same since the beginning. And I'm hoping more of that now that they've kind of like I feel like they're happy with their faction selection and how that's going to go. So I think that's where the next 5 to 10 years will make a difference. But I think if you coincide that with this product that we're talking about, you have a chance to build some narrative that people will fall in love with and that are willing to like love and hold on to, and not just be like, oh, what's the point? It's going to change anyway. Because like in the scheme of 40K, not a lot. We've been at 30 Seconds to Midnight for like forever now, but people love reading about Primarchs because they're like. Of all the Space Marines are the most human-like in their like emotions and decisions and whatever. So
also I think an interesting question is like what product is catching AOS people when they fall out of AOS right now, right? Because the way I look at Kill Team is and even games like Necromunda and stuff like that, and maybe Horse Heresy as well. When people leave the 40K game because of like it just changes too much, or like maybe it's a bit too expensive, or X, Y, whatever their reason is, thoughts and feelings or whatever, they leave and they're usually looking for some other experience. And there's so many other games in that universe that are ready to catch you.
Yeah, right.
And keep you in the Games Workshop sphere. Yes. I feel like AOS doesn't have that, right? Like, Underworlds is there. It's not really a mini game though. True. It's kind of like a board game and a card game, so it's not really the same thing. I feel like Warcry or whatever the new thing Warcry turns into needs to be that. It needs to catch people. And give people a compelling reason to stay in the universe.
Yeah. No, true. So there you go. Tiny AOS. Right?
Yeah.
We need tiny
little ones like this.
Imperialis AOS. That'd be pretty cool too.
That would be awesome. I play that. I'm such a stan for GW. I love playing it.
I know,
It's like it's kind of pathetic sometimes, but
it is. Pays the bills.
it's what happens when you've been in it for 30 years. You're just like, so deep into the ecosystem that, can't leave now. Can't leave now.
Chill.
All right, well, stay tuned. If you're a Patreon member, or if you're not, you can get on there even as a free Patreon member just to get the messaging. We're going to be announcing very shortly what our plans going forward are. So we have some cool, exciting news to share with you. And if you haven't before, you can like and subscribe to our channel. We do these industry talks a couple times a week. Sometimes you get a bonus Jay or Chris video randomly as well thrown in there. A couple more recently.
I looked at the algorithm and it says we should just make more videos about nothing. So that's what I'm doing. I like money, so I make videos.
Nice. Well, give us a like and subscribe. We appreciate it, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.